Welcome to Company Showcase, an advertising feature on HowStreet.com.
I'm Jim Goddard. We're chatting with Larry Reaugh. He's the president and CEO of American Manganese. Welcome back to the show, Larry.
Well, thanks, Jim. It's always a pleasure to be on the show.
What kind of new things do you have to tell us about American Manganese?
Well, it's the news release that we put out yesterday that talks about, what direction the company's going in. Kind of a mini sketch of a business plan that we're developing. And, of course, we know that our recycling works. We're past that proof of concept work. We are looking at building a pilot plant, which will be done out of the flow sheets that go into the final patent application. And that pilot plant will eventually allow us to scale up to a commercial-sized plant, and then we can really start talking about dollars and cents. But in the meantime, I did point out in a press release that there is a source out there, and I've talked about it before on the show, but I didn't really, it really was not explained fully to the listening audience, just that scraps, 10% of all the electric vehicles that are made in the electric vehicle batteries, 10% of it ends up as scraps, which means they're rejected. And they're rejected before they ever go into a battery because they run a huge batch of foils with cathode material on it. They run a huge batch of batteries out of that, which is a small percentage of the foils that they run. And if there's something wrong, if there's some defect in the battery, all of those foils are scrapped. And they end up in a recycling yard and eventually burned. And they represent about 10% of all the battery manufacturing. So what I pointed out that in 2015, according to the Cobalt Institute, 41% of all the cobalt material that was produced was taken up by the battery industry, and they expect that to go to 75% by 2020, to 65% by 2025. That's a significant amount of cobalt. So you can see that there's got to be more supply of cobalt coming on. You look around in the short term, there's not any immediate solutions. And, they put recycling kind of on the back burner by saying they're going to start using batteries for second use. So, rather than wait for the batteries to deplete and become available and maybe end up in second use, we're going to focus strictly on the scrap material, which could represent up to 4,000 tons of cobalt, and double that in the other amounts of cathode material that would be on there, like nickel, lithium, manganese, and aluminum. So, that's a big market. I mean, it's a huge market. It's not a very big plant. Maybe just as a rule of thumb, if you were looking at a plant, it would produce 4,000 tons of cobalt a year and 8,000 tons of other cathode material. You're looking at a plant that would be probably around 50 to 60 tons a day. Not very big. And and the other thing, the real benefit that I'd like to point out to the shareholders of this thing is that we don't have to go into disassembly, and which would mean a lot of robotics and everything like that, and that first plant would be quite expensive. We'll be able to, if we can get our hands on the scrap material and recycle that will give us all the cash flow we need to actually do an in-depth study of how to disassemble all types of batteries and put them into solution, put the cathode material into solution. So we look at this as a win-win scenario, not just for the company, but for the battery manufacturers. You could have a supply of at least 4,000 tons of cobalt being added to the market each year, and that would only increase as time goes by. And, that could end up being 5,000 or 6,000 tons by 2025, maybe even higher. So, and the value of 4,000 tons of cobalt is $230 million. If that's not a robust attraction for making this recycling opportunity work, I can't think of anything that wouldn't be. So that in the press release, we went into some detail on on the pilot plant. We went into some detail on the value of the scrap material. We didn't put a value to the other materials because until we can do an in-depth study on that, I can't put a value to it. But it's going to increase the value, and it's as simple as that. One thing I'd like the shareholders to look at is those that have been with us since the days of low-grade manganese in the Tillery Peak when we first started developing a process that would treat ores that were grading 2 to 3%. We were looking at a plant doing 7,500 tons a day to produce 50,000 tons of manganese, and that was a pretty massive plant. And, it also had an open pit attached to it, and, it was a full-scale mining operation, and you had to put through, at 2% grade, you'd have to put through 50 tons to get 1 ton, or 50 tons to get a ton of manganese. You got to remember that what we're looking at in cathode material is 100% purity in all of the cathode materials. So there's no waste, there's no mining that's involved. It's a matter of shipping and receiving the recycled material wherever you have your plant and putting it into the process. It looks simple, but it's not as simple as that when you look at how the patents work and everything else and how you end up getting 100% purity and 100% recovery of these metals. And if it was that simple, people have been working on it for the last 10 years would have done it. It was just that we were in the fortuitous position of having spent a few $1 million on the low-grade manganese solution that addressed some of the problems that everybody runs into when they're trying to recycle the lithium-ion battery recycling proposal. So when you look at the press release, you can take a pen out of your pocket, you sit down and start doing some number crunching. And I'm pretty sure that you'll see that this thing makes a hell of a lot of sense. So that's what the press release was all about. It's been picked up by some of our more prestigious newsletters out there that report on recycling daily, like Recycling International did an article on us out of that press release, and that's good to see. We're starting to get some exposure in the mainstream that way. So that's it in a nutshell. I would hope that the next podcast that we do will maybe we'll do some more question and answers, and rather than just have me kind of go on a rant here. But that ends the week. We had a lot of selling and pressure from one house that was obviously wanted us to know that they were driving the price down, which they did. And they've accounted for 80% of the volume in the last 3 days. And so it's anybody's guess whether it was a large shareholder selling, which I can't see why they'd drive the price down to get their money, but or whether it was predatory trading. But I'll leave that up to everybody else to surmise.
Larry, where is this pilot plant going to be built?
It'll be built in Richmond at the research contractor Cametco's facility there. They've got a huge facility, and that'll be the pilot plant. Now, remember, the pilot plant is a small scale, and it's just to show that this can be recovered on a continuous basis. Now, we've built pilot plants before, so we know all the obstacles and all the upsides and downsides. And so has Cametco. They've had some pretty big clients on pilot plants beside us. So it'll be built in Richmond and tested there. And probably the first plant will be built somewhere like with Quebec Research. We want all the engineers that are involved in this work to be on the final design. But what that pilot plant does, again, it lets us scale up so we can have a commercial-sized plant. And again, I just want to point out to people that when you think of a plant, producing a hydrometallurgical plant and a mining operation, they're huge. In this case, they're small. They could fit on a couple of flat deck trailers, probably. That's just a guess. And but you know, we know from experience that it would not be it would not have a very large footprint, Jim.
Larry, where can people find your shares being traded?
They can find them being traded on the TSX Venture Exchange under the symbol AMY, or in the U.S. under the symbol AMYZF, or on Frankfurt. And we do have a service now that translates the English into the German version under the symbol 2AM. They can find information on the company, which we try to keep up to date, at AmericanManganeseInc.com, or they can contact me at LREAUGH@AMYMN.com, or pick up the phone and give me a call at 778-574-4444.
Larry, thanks for the update.
You're welcome.
I'm Jim Goddard. My guest has been Larry Reaugh, CEO and President of American Manganese. We were speaking on July 28th.
Comments made on Company Showcase are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any manner whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Archived online at HowStreet.com. Company Showcase is a production of How Street Media Incorporated.